can I have your attention, please? If anyone will be speaking this evening, we please ask that you please sign in. We also ask that you please direct your comments, questions, and concerns to the board. You can move in front of the board in any manner, but if you do have any presentations, it has to face this board. Turn it around so we can see it. Also, it's picked up by our records, by Charlie. If you do need to discuss any matters with one another, it really needs to be in the hallway. It interferes with our opportunity to hear those that are speaking before us. We're going to start this evening's meeting with a motion to open. Is there a motion, please?
I make a motion that we open this meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on April 9th, 2018.
A motion by Christina. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan. All in favor?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Susan? Jeff?
Aye.
And I. Welcome to the April 9th, 2018 meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic Preservation. My name is Curtis Highsmith, and I am your chair. I'd like to introduce our panel for this evening. We have here this evening Rob Colburn, Christina Redding, Susan Stevenson, along with Jeff Broadley. I'd like to welcome our historic consultant, Zach Studenroth. Unfortunately, Bo Robinson is not here this evening, but the more than able stand-in is Wayne Bruin. And we'd like to welcome also Antoinette and Charlie, as always. We're going to start this evening's meeting with the minutes from March 26, 2018. There were some changes, some conversations, discussions moving back and forth. Were there any other modifications to the minutes that need to be done at this point? Did everyone agree with the changes that were discussed?
Yeah.
Yes.
No errors, questions, comments, or concerns? All right, so then there's the motion to approve the March 26th meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic
I'd
Preservation.
like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 26th meeting of our board.
I'll second.
Motion by Christina, second by Rob. All in favor, Rob?
Aye.
Christina? Susan?
Aye.
Jeff, were you
was not here,
He was
so
not here,
abstain.
and I'm an aye as well. Next, we have signs for this evening. First application sign.
The first application is for City Nails and Reflexology. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, SIDDHI, at 10 Oak Street.
The applicant
Yes.
present? You?
My name is Patricia Cabrera.
Okay. Okay, you are changing the sign with the title company. You're going with the same size and design that is currently there. What
Yes.
about the material? What will the sign be made of?
They are not going to use wood, but they are going to use a very similar material. It's this company I went to, they used to put signs in a lot of places in Southampton.
Okay.
They know about. When I went like 20 days ago, they told me we can give you an estimate, but we cannot do anything until you bring us the permit.
That's
So
correct.
they know a lot about.
Okay.
Probably AZEC, do you
AZEC, that's
remember?
Yes.
Okay.
So I see it was signed off by code enforcement, which means the dimensions, the size match are within code. Name of your company is the...
City Nails and Reflexology.
Okay, so that's a complete name of your organization. Will there be any lanterns or lighting, projectile lighting to the sign at all? None at all?
No.
All right.
Just as the one that you have there in the picture.
Yes.
It will
Yes.
be just like that.
Okay. Rob, any questions?
I have no questions.
Christina?
No, fine.
Susan?
No.
Jeff?
It's fine.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the sign for City Nails and Reflexology.
Thank
Motion
you.
by Christina, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan. All in favor, Rob?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Christina? Jeff?
Aye.
Christina, will you yes?
I said
And
aye.
aye. Next application for signs, please.
The next application is T&S Mott General Contracting, and it is for the contractor sign.
Name of the company, general contractor, Sac Harbor, New York, telephone number, and a website. Black background, white lettering.
You need to say it, Harvard.
It's a question for the applicant, who's unfortunately not here to present.
Okay.
Do you have issue? So you have issue with the application as
I think
presented?
it's a lot on there.
Okay. Jeff?
Do we need
Jeff?
Sag Harbor?
It is a lot, but I'm okay with it.
Okay. Rob?
I'm okay with it. It's busy, but I'm okay with it.
I
Christine?
guess I'd be willing to be convinced.
And it's a contractor.
Okay.
So it's a contractor sign, it's there for the project completion. Once it's complete, it will be removed. It is a little billboardish, but it's, it's black and white. So no, I don't think there's really any issue. If it had any designs or logo or something, I think it would be over the top. Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the contract assigned for P&S Mott General Contracting.
Motion by Christina. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rob. All in favor, Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Susan? Jeff?
Yes, aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Next application, please.
Next application is for Ruby and Jenna at 24 Jobs Lane. The store sign awnings.
Hi,
Name for the record?
Stacy Menzer, Hampton Signs.
Okay. This is for the sign or awning?
It is for the awning, the letter, for the awning and the lettering on the awning.
Okay. Is it a retractable awning or?
It is.
It is. It's a black awning with white lettering?
It is.
And this is the only representation. There will be any telephone numbers, websites, or anything on the awning?
That is exactly, as you see it, is exactly.
In this font as well?
Yes.
Okay. Rob, you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Christina?
Nope.
Susan?
No issues.
No, it's attractive.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the awning and the awning sign for Ruby and Jenna on James Lane.
Motion by Christina. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan. All in favor, Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And aye as well. Final sign for this evening?
Thank you very much.
The final sign is 11D USA LLC, and this is for a sign also on Jobs Lane, I believe, 53 Jobs Lane.
Your name for the
How are you?
record.
Kevin Zamora?
So you have a window decal going in?
Correct.
The front window. Will there also be a sign above the,
Not for now, no.
so
Just,
there's no sign? I see here that you have this yellowed out.
yeah, that was the previous business that was there, so we're just going to do the window decal.
Just the window? Okay, so Charlie, I see you zooming in. Let me get the window decal so you have it.
Good luck. Hard to see.
It's very small.
I feel like Vanna White. So it's this portion here, correct?
Correct, and it will be white.
It will be white. So it's the name of the company. There won't be any other decals on the door and the side window?
No, nothing.
Okay. Jeff, any questions?
No, I like it. I like the font. I like the creativity of the use of the letters. It's a nice sign.
Susan?
I have no problem.
Christina?
Thank you.
Agree with my fellow board members.
Any public comment on the application? For a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the sign for 11T USA LLC.
Thank you so
Motion
much.
by Christina, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan. All in favor, Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Concludes our sign permits for this evening. We do have open comment discussion about the next application, which was on the agenda as a written decision. I'm sorry, I apologize. We don't have a written decision by council as of yet. Correct? It's not in file?
4784?
Yes. You had a written decision yet? Great.
We do.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it in there. All right. Then the motion would be to approve written decision by council for 478 Meadow Lane LLC.
784.
784.
This might dyslex itself.
Close enough.
I make a motion to approve the written decision on 784 Meadow Lane for the constructed driveway gates.
Motion by Rob. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Christina. All in favor? Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Susan?
Good speed, Curtis. Good for you.
Coffee.
Okay, I'm working on it.
We'll get a chance to get the door and we'll sign the hands. Okay. We have no driveway gates in non-historic. We have no driveway gates in historic. So first application, non-historic.
First application, non-historic, is for Christopher and Jean Lynch at 58 Roscoe, but that has been referred to the Board of Appeals and is pending a decision from that board.
Okay, we still have that as an open, adjournment. I believe that we had a date on that.
Bringing it up right now.
It's on for
14th.
decision at the next CBA.
Okay. What was the open
May
adjournment?
14th.
May 14th. So we stand on that May 14th open adjournment, and we await decision by the CBA. Next application, please.
The next application is Robert McCabe and Joan Schacht. This is for an addition to, a first and second story addition to a house at 100 Pulaski Street.
Your name for the record?
For the record, I'd like to adjourn it for the time being. The architect's redrawing, downsizing the project, so he's going to need a few more weeks to do his drawings. I've been away for the last month on business, so I haven't been able to be here.
So you're bragging that you're reducing the size?
Business. It was cold where I work.
Good months to be away.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the motion would be to approve the applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
Can I make a comment? May I?
Yes.
Sorry, I'd like to make a comment, just, and I don't know, sir, sorry if the building department's been in touch with you, but I know there was a concern just with respect to screening. This may be moot depending on your redesign of the upstairs balcony. But I think the concern of the board, and correct me if I'm wrong, was particularly with respect to heading east and across your driveway and that closeness to the neighbor on the east side, with a concern about possibly getting some landscaping to screen that.
Well, has anybody from the board visited the property?
There's a lot of
We all have.
And you all have
Yes.
concern with that? With the
Visit.
house
We did a site
looming-
visit.
With that house looming over the driveway on the property line?
Yes.
I mean, to the east?
Well, I think Rob's saying be mindful of some concerns, some comments that were made with regards to screening inside. So when your architect is looking, reviewing downsizing, maybe you could take into consideration that there may be some privacy issues if there's a second story
That's
deck.
the concern.
Okay.
Okay, so we are always looking at line of sight. If it's a second story deck, these are narrow lots for the most part.
It's
If
not,
you're-
it's not a narrow lot, it's a double wide lot.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the line of sight. If you have concern, the neighbors would have concerns on you basically observing their backyard and
Was there an issue?
infringing on their privacy. So
Was-
that would be the main concern, and I think that was one of the
But
comments.
was there an issue from the neighbor?
No.
Was it coming from the neighbor?
No, there's not been. But it's been a principle or precedent for the board. I would suggest, because I think one of the photographs that you submitted in a series of photographs was from that neighbor's property back towards your property, if I'm not mistaken.
It was from the center of the deck as it was drawn on the plans, which is in the center of the property.
Okay. There was, I saw another photograph that looked like it was from the east, from your neighbor's property back towards the rear of your existing house, but maybe...
From the front yard? Was that
No,
picture referring to?
it looked to me like it was from the backyard, maybe even from a second-story window in the house
No,
next door.
it was actually from a ladder placed on the deck where the new deck would be, which is in the center of the
I
property.
misread the photograph then. It's a different one.
So it's also a winter picture, so there's no vegetation, there's no leaves on anything, so it's also kind of, who comes out in the wintertime?
I live here all the time, sir,
I mean,
so, sorry, I wouldn't like to...
Summertime is when
look
people
at- if you like
you
it.
and lay by the pool, not the wintertime.
Well, I
so.
think whether a neighbor shows up to a meeting here or expresses something to us, we're still tasked with protecting their interests, and that's one of the concerns with respect to balconies and privacy. So that was a concern that came up before, and I just...
Just be mindful of it as you're observing going over the application.
Would it be of any help to have the neighbor write any kind of letter that would say,
Any letter of
Yes.
recommendation that you can
Yes.
get?
would that be okay?
If you know them and you think they wouldn't object and they're willing to write, that would be very helpful for me.
That'd be great.
If you have your own entire neighborhood, say, I'm in favor of the application. It'd be rare.
But that neighbor to the east in particular, if you know them and they're willing to do that,
Let's
that's...
see how it goes. Okay.
So the motion is to approve the applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
The next meeting, or a month,
It would be a month.
It would
That's
be a
maybe
month.
kind of tough because of the
second next
architect's,
meeting.
Do you have a date that you feel that would be best?
it would be the second meeting. which would
Second
be
meeting. When is our first meeting in?
The 23rd, and the first one in May is the 8th. 14th.
Okay, so May 14th? All right, so the motion
I
be
make a
approved.
motion that we accept the
very much
request
appreciated.
of the applicant, Robert and Joan Sharp, on Pulaski Street to adjourn to our second meeting in May.
First meeting in May.
First meeting in May.
Oh, first
First
meeting in
meeting.
May.
I second the
The
motion.
motion by Christina, was second by Rob. All in favor, Rob?
That's 4 weeks from now? Okay.
May 14th.
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Aye.
Jeff? Aye as well. Next application, please.
The next application is the application for 31 Meadowmere Place. This is construction of a new home.
Is the applicant present?
This is the fourth no-show.
Okay, we need a letter to the applicant to get a
I think
clarification.
we did on this.
I'm just looking to see if we did that.
Okay, if we did, then we would look to adjourn it, I'm sorry, withdraw it.
Did you
from our agenda without prejudice.
So, do we adjourn it?
She's going to check to see if a letter went out.
Well, that was 31, right? Okay. No, we didn't do anything yet. Not yet.
Okay, so we want to give the applicant notice. We can get a letter out to the applicant that we need to get clarification and some update on the application, or it will be withdrawn from the agenda without prejudice. Motion to adjourn the application.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of 31 Meadowmere Place.
Motion by Christine, is there a second?
A second motion.
Second by Susan. I'm sorry?
To what date?
Till the next meeting. Okay. All in favor, Jeff? Jeff?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Next application, please.
The next application is Dragana Blatkovic. This
Good job.
This is for 120 Leland Avenue.
Okay.
I'm actually Mina Deck, that I'm standing in for.
Okay.
For Dragana. And I brought some extra illustrations for you all because last time there was an issue of getting, the file was incomplete, and I just wanted to make sure that you all saw what we're talking about. So,
Are those the same as the thing in the file?
no, but I dropped stuff off at the beginning of the week, but last time there was an issue,
So these are the
so.
revisions that were put in on
It's
March
just-
26, 2008.
Correct. It's just one revision. I don't know if you all want to see this or not.
If you have more copies?
I do, I've copies for everybody.
And what you're handing here is no different than what you dropped off?
I believe so. I mean, I hope so.
Well, I need to know if that's, if this is actually the same.
These might be
information.
extra illustrations that she had drawn up for this meeting.
So I'm going to, well, for the record, so we
Yes.
understand, we're not going to look at your submission on the 26th.
Correct.
We'll
I'm
look at
sorry.
review. Well, this is the first time reviewing this, so
Okay.
be aware of that.
Okay, that's fine.
This is not in the file.
If you go to this is just in, is it okay if I stand here? Would you prefer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But if you have illustrations, it has to face us.
Right, so the recommendation, there was only one issue the last time she was here. This is the red house on Leland. It was with regard to the exterior material used on the chimney. So she addressed that by taking your recommendation and using stucco instead. I believe that was your recommendation, and she liked it very much. So she's using that material instead of using shingle, which was what she had originally.
Okay, so the chimneys now are stucco.
Correct, stucco. And it will not brick. She felt it was quieter, wouldn't compete with the rest of the design. It will match the color of the shingle that's in the house.
There's some wrought iron gates mentioned. Do you know anything about
I
that?
do not.
Okay. Well,
I'll
there,
ask her about that. The other issue, which was not an issue at all, but she wanted me to address it because you had brought it up, and was the front door. So this little image here, which is a smaller, and then there's a 3D image here, shows you how she sort of set off there was a concern that it didn't really look like a front door because it had been like a multi-use house. So she wanted you to see what her intentions really were. And she, in fact, changed the material of the door, which is also recommended by the board, I believe, or she did that to enhance sort of the, that's sort of what it looks like from the street. So instead of, originally it was French glass doors, but now it's wood bottom, glass top. And she put the sconces on it so you could see that. And it will also have a recessed lighting, which you can't see from the street, but while you step at the door, it will light from above.
I think that's a major improvement.
Oh, good.
So we're seeing much of the same thing, but in more detail on this
Exactly.
rendering, so we can see.
Right.
Because the concern was that it blended in and it didn't look like a front door.
Yeah, and I think you're right about that. And I think she felt that, she agreed, and so maybe changes, subtle changes, but I think they make a difference.
I see on the building permit that you crossed out driveway gates, so was at some point this application proposing driveway gates?
Perhaps, but I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I can ask her about that.
Well, it's on the agenda. I see it's on your building permit, but I see it's been crossed out.
Therefore, I would assume that it's not happening, but I don't want to speak to that because I haven't been.
If there were to be approval, the approval would be without driveway gates, so that you understand.
Okay. I'll make sure she knows that.
On the plot plan, it showed posts and no gates across.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
that may explain that. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, sort of related to that, is it shows some brick walls.
As connecting the garage area to the house?
Actually, it looked like it was on along the sidewalk, on the perimeter of the property. I don't have a plot plan in front of me, but in the file.
I honestly don't know about that.
It was in the rendering?
No, it wasn't in the rendering, it was on the plot plan.
Here we have these, I have,
You're saying that there's a brick wall?
yeah, there was like a flow.
Well, there was a 12-foot brick wall.
Was it a connector wall of some sort?
It was between, I think there are two driveways, and right, there are two entrances, and it was a connector on one side that was 12 feet long, and then on the other side, it was 5 feet.
It says a brick walk.
Brick wall?
Walk. I think it's at grade.
Really?
Okay.
Here, Mr. Warner. It's on the left side.
In which case, I would say, never mind.
No, I have five.
But, Ron, look through the folder on some of the long diagrams.
The which? I'm sorry,
You have the actual elevations.
Yeah.
I know it's sort of in there somewhere.
I'm looking through the original elevations.
Send it down, Christine. Just take a picture of it. Let's see if I can find it. You guys go on.
Any other comments?
I have, this is a 3-foot high wrought iron. 6-foot high wrought iron railing, and there's a 3-foot wrought iron railing in this window.
Okay.
I'm in the new packet
It's not in the old.
somewhere. The date of this doesn't have a number.
The 3 feet high wrought iron railing, I see.
Yeah, do you know? And
I don't know anything about that, and
I believe they probably wanted the railing wrought. Do we want a wrought iron railing along with everything else in here?
It's black is probably fade into the overall.
No, because it's up against white. And also this tall,
You have issue with the 6 foot.
I think that they have to encircle the property to be able to close, we have a pool.
right,
Right, I understand that.
yeah, exactly.
I guess I have trouble with the material.
Christina, comment?
And here's a 4-foot high fence. There's a lot of things, there are a lot of elements. Here's the,
There you go.
So, if you have the rendering dated, the rendering you sent in on the what is it? 27. If we can go to the proposed sidewalk and drive.
I may or may not have that.
Okay, I can give you a copy if you do not, to borrow.
What's the date, I'm sorry?
You have February 12, 2018 on the plan.
Yes, that's I have in front of me.
We can go to the proposed sidewalk and driveway.
I want to be clear, I'm really only here to talk about those other two elements, and I don't want to speak about these because I'm not an expert with regard to this.
It's a complete application for us to review everything that's before us.
I totally understand, but
So if you don't have the information,
I don't. So what happens if I don't have the information?
if it stands to be an issue for this board to move forward further, it would have to be clarification.
Okay, so then she would have to return to the next meeting,
If
perhaps.
the board
Okay.
has questions.
Okay, so tell me exactly, and then I'll send that on to her as well.
So, do you have it?
I do, I have the
Go to
packet.
the proposed sidewalk and driveway.
Oh my God, it's a 37-page.
pretty far back.
About the fifth. to
Landscape
last.
and off-street parking, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So you said street parking?
I think, is that it?
Side work and driveway?
Yes, okay. There are two brick structures. You have a post, if you can turn it around, so
Faces us to see anything.
you have a 12-foot post.
No. Brick wall is
There's two
12
posts.
feet.
It's not a wall, I don't think. This is planned, so.
I'm just giving the width, I'm sorry, 12-foot long. I don't know if it's a wall or a post.
Okay.
It states here in the plans post, and a 5-foot wide post.
Right.
Were those the proposed driveway gates that were going to be part of the plan?
I don't know.
Okay. And secondly, you have, seems part of the screening, you have trees right in the middle of your sidewalk, in the middle of that entryway or that opening. Is that planned?
No, those trees exist.
Those trees pre-exist?
And I believe there was, she did drop off some plans during the week, or had plans sent to the building department with regard to parking, but that's not specific to what you're talking about with regard to this wall.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I don't think that's a wall. I think what you're seeing is, in front of the door, you're seeing two posts and a brick sidewalk or brick
Yes.
pad,
Pad.
Belgian block or brick.
It's a path.
There's no, the question is being asked is, what is it? And
So I'm just reading the plans, and
Yes.
the 12-foot one is the entrance to the parking area. That's how cars get in and out.
I agree.
Yes, that's right.
So that's the
That's it.
apron?
It's just the apron for each.
Okay. That makes sense.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Any other
That makes
comments?
sense. And then she just has
And
small
this is
posts.
just the
Right.
material
Okay.
of some of
I
the
got you.
walk?
That would make sense.
Yes.
There's
Okay.
a walk that goes all the way around here?
Yes, this is around the school,
I think
correct?
there's a
So
sidewalk.
side- There's a sidewalk around.
That's
it.
correct.
But it's
I
not,
got you.
it's a regular site. It's the,
Yes, there's a real sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pre-existing.
all right, so now we just have,
So I'm good with it. then.
Good?
so now I'm just up to the, I'm still concerned about the wrought iron, especially the balcony one on end. The material you passed out this, to here,
You have issue with material of the wrought iron gate.
up on this,
Jeff, do you have comments?
No, I think it's
Rob?
fine. I mean, it's, whether it's white or black or,
I don't. I don't have a problem with the wrought iron. If I'm reading this correctly, the 3-foot on the balcony up above, this is a code issue. The building department will clarify. It needs to be 42 inches, I believe, but
Is it
I could have
accessible
that
second
problem.
story deck? It is.
It needs to be 42 inches and not 36 inches. But I don't have a problem with the wrought iron material.
Christina?
I don't have a problem with the way.
okay, I do.
I would like to see
Understood.
prettier lamps on the front door.
I just feel like there's too many
there-
disparate, there are a lot of materials in this, and then to add the black, doesn't, I feel it's obtrusive, it just makes it busier.
Is there any public comment on the application? Okay. There is a question with regards to the height of the railing. Again, that's a code issue. It should be actually reflected in the elevations properly.
It's 3 feet
You're not the
high.
architect, correct?
I'm not. I'm the family friend.
It says 3 feet high.
You guys are scaring me to death.
Needs to be 4 feet.
Oh, sorry.
But that's a code question,
Okay.
and I'm going to...
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you have a recommendation of a material that you would prefer on that instead of a wrought iron?
You didn't have any, you had the majority vote.
Oh,
Stick to your
material.
guns.
sorry.
I can
That's
say
why
no,
we
and you
each
can still have your plans.
I just have one question.
Yes.
Now you've designed this lovely new front door. The lights are the side of the door. Are they pre-existing? Is that something?
They're not. Those are sconces that she's going to purchase and put in
Okay.
herself. I think the Restoration Hardware. That I know.
I think they're a little industrial looking, but
Okay, I'll tell her that.
I think they're fine.
yeah.
I think,
They're
sort of modern.
Yeah,
I
contemporary.
think that's fine.
All right.
And they cover, they don't shoot up, which is always
No.
good.
No, right.
no, and nobody can throw stones at them because they're protected.
Right. It's next to the school.
It is by the school.
I know.
I don't believe we have students in our school that throw stones.
No, they're all
I
wonderful.
would never,
Just on
Ginny Winfield would
Halloween.
never allow it to be.
18-year-old daughter in the school, I believe the school is protected. It's an excellent school.
Agreed.
Therefore, motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve this application of Dragana Lacrobic on Leyland.
Not bad. You said.
Motion by,
Yeah, that's good.
motion by Christina. Is there a second?
You have to note that no driveway gates.
Well, it was crossed up by the building.
No driveway gates.
However, to be safe, let's add the provision that there will be no driveway gates.
Yes,
No driveway gates.
no driveway gates.
Motion by,
Approval does not include any driveway gates, doesn't preclude them from applying again.
Correct.
Right, exactly.
that motion and correction, Christina,
second
second
the
by
motion.
Rob, all in favor. Rob?
Aye.
Christina? Susan?
Yay.
Jeff? Aye. And I'm an aye.
So that's good.
Do you have the file?
Thank you. What happens now?
You'll get the permit issued out of the building department within a couple of days.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your kindness. I appreciate it.
Is that them too?
If you can give me another. Just so we're complete. Next application.
The next application is Life Storage at 3 William Place. This is construction of a 2-story commercial building.
Your name for the record?
Tim McVitie.
Just double check that we have affidavit of mailing and posting.
Oh, sorry,
That's okay.
I did not check.
I put them in.
I'm sorry?
I did put them in.
Okay. Not that I don't believe you, but I just like to see it.
Go for it.
Please proceed.
Sure. Life Storage, 3 William Place. We are looking at demoing the current office building, which is a 2-story stucco building, along with the 2 buildings on each side, which are 2-story metal buildings with first floor being traditional exterior drive-up units, and replacing that with one single building that will include an office. Majority of the building will be a standard metal building, with the office portion being an EFIS section.
And you're utilizing the existing signing but relocating it to the new building?
Correct. The existing side will be taken down, salvaged, put back up, along with the existing fabric retractable awnings.
Will you be adding any additional lighting towards the, so there won't be any lanterns, any goose down lighting towards the signs?
No.
And the signs, because they're pre-existing, they don't need to be, you're using the same signs, you're not replacing and changing colors?
Correct, yeah. Our signage project manager in the office said that's the biggest we can go no matter what, so.
Very good. Jeff, any comments?
No.
Susan?
No.
Christina?
No.
Rob?
No comments.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve the application of Life Storage on William Place.
Motion by Christina. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan. All in favor? Rob?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
The next application is Kathleen Molansky at 61 Corrigan. This is demolition of existing house and construction of a 2-story building. And I don't see affidavits. I
have them right here.
Good evening, board members. I'm Michael Berenger. I'm the architect for the applicant, who is also here, Kathleen Molansky. Should you have any questions for her? I have some smaller sized sets that I will hand out. Thank you. And these are 5 sets for the board members. What we are proposing to do here is a new single-family residence. We're on Corrigan Street, as you're probably aware, and the house is 2,900 square feet. It's on the more of the southerly end of Corrigan Street where there has not really been any development yet. I think the property has 1/2 acre, and it has a lot of good street frontage, so our side yard setbacks are 40 feet from the property line, which I think will help create a little bit of a buffer from the neighbors with the 40-foot setback as opposed to the 15. And in your packet, you'll see two renderings of the house, 3D renderings, and there's a landscaping plan that was prepared by the landscape architect, and then a set of our architectural plans. The house itself is kind of has a main A-frame. It's a shingle-style traditional home with dormers on the front and the back. The roof is a cedar shingle. The side walls are cedar shingle. The decking is mahogany. The trim is all white AZEK. I think it's been carefully designed to sort of blend into the neighborhood, and we have a detached garage and a small pool house that are, similar to the design of the main residence. Perhaps if there are questions either from yourselves or neighbors, I could address that.
First, congratulations on building a modest home.
Okay.
Start with that. You said traditional A-frame. The dormers are a little,
I mean, I didn't want to call it a cape, but it has some features that a Cape Cod style home has. It's a full dormers on the front and the back, but it intended to give it sort of a 1.5-story feel rather than a 2.5-story, but it's a 2-story home.
How tall is it?
28.6 is the overall height of the bridge.
I think I'm getting lost in the presentation of that front, especially the front two dormers and the recessed dormer dead center. I think when I'm brought to the front of the building and I see the curved entryway and then I see all of these very sharp edges towards the front, it just seems like there's a contrast. That's just me personally. I don't know how the other board feels, but
We tried a few ideas with the entry. They're not really going to be coming in the front door of the house, but there's a side entry that's off the driveway, and we just did that little soft curve to just try to make the entrance have a little bit of a special feeling rather than just a flat facade there. So it's just meant to be an eased curved roof line there just to announce the entry and to soften it a little bit.
How far out does it extend?
4 feet.
No, the curve?
Yes.
4 feet?
Bracketed off the house, yes.
From the deepest point, but from the edges. So over here, Michael.
It's 4 foot total. Yes, sir.
It looks like it comes up maybe about 2 feet from the end of the corbels from the brackets, roughly.
And it's a 2-foot overhang, and so that's 4 foot.
Oh, okay.
Just to- so
Right, so
you're
it's
out
4
of-
feet overall, 2
Yes.
feet on, gotcha.
So you're out of the rain when
Gotcha.
if you're at that front door.
So what would happen if you just didn't have the white trim on the middle, over the middle recessed windows, just here and here? That would take away some of what Curtis might have been
Well,
talking
we've got a roof overhang there, so I could change the color of the trim there if that's what you're suggesting.
No.
I mean, normally you would pick one color for the trim and do that throughout. Is that, Curtis, I'm not sure, is that your concern, or?
It seems to have a very intense horizontal, is there a way to,
I think that the design of the house individually, if you take each individual component, and they have an issue with it, but when I look at the curved front porch entryway there, and then I look at the top, where we just had these heavy dormers that are aggressive.
yeah.
Rob, do you have any comments for us?
No, not separate from that. I agree with the concern a little bit, that it looks flat, and it'd be nice to see if there's some other detail that could be put over some or all of those dormers on the second floor.
Do you mean something other than a shed roof on those dormers? Like a reverse gable? Is that additional roof lines, or?
No.
What I'm hearing, and I agree with the sentiment, is that it's a very strong horizontal line that jogs back in a bit of an unexpected way on that shed roof over all the combined second floor windows.
Are you suggesting perhaps that instead of that stepping back over the center entry, that it would be just one continuous?
No.
No. Okay.
I think that would exacerbate the issue.
Yeah, and I don't think it could be because of the setback of those center windows. You'd have a problem with sight lines.
If the windows came down a little, would that help any, in the middle ones? Would that help?
They're within about 6 inches of the roof line, so
Yeah.
they really wouldn't. Those are bathrooms on the second floor right there, so they just required a very small window.
I don't have suggestions with regards to the design. I'm just. Go ahead.
I appreciate what you said, which is that this is I don't want to say a modest house, but it's got a nice feel to it overall in many ways. And, I think if you started going to gabled roofs over any of those windows, you might fight against that effect of this being a 1.5 story.
Absolutely.
Agree.
So maybe it's a condition we accept because there are worse alternatives and it's not a bad design.
It's not a bad design.
I agree.
I mean, I did not want to do a continuous dormer across the front, and the two bedrooms on the left and the right have the larger windows, and with the entrance being centered, I thought it was appropriate for that dormer to step back a little bit and not crowd that little roof line for the entry, and those are bathrooms on the second floor, so there's a sort of a combination of form and function here.
And the roof across these dormers is shingled?
Yes, it is. It's all
Okay, it's hard to
cedar
tell
shingles.
on this.
Jeff, you haven't said any comments?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad design. I think it's a good design. And I think it's important, as Curtis and Rob has said, that when an applicant, and Kathleen, and you, Michael, take heed and appreciate the neighborhood and its changing, because we've seen houses on Corrigan Street on the other end that are grossly oversized for the lot. And you could have built a bigger house. You could have built it further to the front, which would have changed the scaling. So I compliment you and the applicant for having that consideration of the neighborhood and the community. So that doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. So, and in the context of the scaling of the house, I think the design is interesting.
Yeah. Any public comment? I'm sorry, Christine, did you have anything?
No, I said I think it's a nice design. It's a lovely house.
Any public comments on the application?
I just had one last question, actually. Are there any? I don't see any lights on the elevations. No.
There are on the front elevation of my plans, which is sheet 6. They're not on the 3D rendering, but we just have 2 lanterns that are on either side of the front door, and that would be the lighting for the front.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Very good. Is there a motion on the application?
I make a motion that we approve this application of Kathleen Wolanski on Corrigan Street.
Motion by Christina. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan. All in favor? Rob? Aye. Christina? Susan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is Diana Straiano for property located on David White's Lane, number 112 David White's Lane. This is a modification and addition on the first floor to the front of the house.
Plans that you're submitting now, have there been any alterations or changes from what's in file currently? Just smaller renderings.
Oh, sorry.
I don't get it.
You call that a signature?
Do you have affidavits of mailing and posting
these notices. I just dropped off the affidavit of posting, and I had earlier dropped off the mailing.
That's the affidavit of posting. I don't see the affidavit. There, I'm sorry. Stop. Okay, we've got the bill. Thank you.
Look into it. That's nothing.
Thank you.
See?
Okay. We're doing a modest addition to a one-story residence. The additions are going out front towards the street. We're expanding 2 existing rooms and creating a little additional space at the front door. All these finishes will match existing. I brought some pictures too.
Okay, yeah, I have it.
A few years ago, I had come in to do the garage addition.
Okay, so if you could show us just on your elevations, the actual, if you show,
This is the work we're proposing today.
Can you actually show the elevations, the front facade? And can you point out the area that's being, the addition?
Right here, this is the addition. And 2 reverse gables.
You're also replacing the 4 windows with the 3 windows just to the
Yes.
south of that? Is that
Yes.
Okay.
This way, the whole front has a consistency. It's all double hung grills, so everything matches.
Rob, you have any comments?
I just have one question. I would like to see the front door. Can you tell me why it faces the garage and not the
That's
street?
what the owner wanted.
I personally, I shared with members of this board, I have something I call the trick-or-treat test. If you're an 8-year-old walking in the neighborhood, would you know where to go to ring the door of a house? And it's an aspect of welcoming to someone to your home, and when you don't see the front door, it doesn't pass the trick-or-treat test for you. So I have a concern. I would rather see the window and the door reversed so that the door faces the street. That's my concern. But I appreciate the new windows and the care that's gone into unifying and using the detail from the eave of the garage back on those gables, so I appreciate all of that.
Christina, comments?
I kind of agree with Rob. I do just moved to a house that doesn't have a front door, and it really distresses me. So it would be nice to see the front door.
Susan, comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
Jeff, any comments?
Yeah, I can see what Rob and Christina are saying. And I have a friend who has an entrance that's similar to that, but the way it presents, it's obvious and it's clear that the door is on the side. And perhaps that's because they have an overhang that extends, the roof line extends 3 or 4 feet. I don't recall whether there's a railing or not, but it's clear, and the walkway proceeds to it, so without necessarily seeing it straight on, you know that there is an entrance there. Is that a possibility in the design?
I think it would look a little funny putting an overhang out in front of those 3 windows.
It may very well, yeah. It would block the window, so I know it's problematic.
Also, we have a difference in a little eave height here. This is an existing roof that goes out, and
I personally don't go trick-or-treating.
Nobody does that.
Never really have.
Come on.
Never really have. It's not a holiday that I've ever experienced. But with that said, it's a modest home. It's a modest addition. I understand the issue and the challenges, and I guess, trying to design a home where the front entryway could be. There's so much going on with this house, where you have that very untraditional rear
Right, yeah.
with these traditional reverse gables. I think we're going to, it's already reached its limit in terms of unique, and I don't have any issues with the application as presented.
Okay, I can live with it.
I'm with Curtis.
Any public comment on the application?
Yes.
Please step forward. You have to step forward. You can't get it on
Really
record.
none of my business because I'm
But
not.
you have to step forward.
Come up and give your name.
Your business
Your
is,
name
your
and-
business is
My
our
name is Peter
business.
Mariotti, and that there was this extension over here that was put on 5 years ago is really ugly. This is one of the ugliest houses
We don't like to
on.
say anything's ugly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We just
I feel that this is an opportunity to cover up this part of the
being
house.
presented before us today.
What?
It's not being presented before us
It's not
today.
being presented.
The applicant's not looking to add.
Has the board member seen this house?
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
agree with me?
If that particular extension was coming before this board today, I don't know if it would be approved,
Okay.
but it's not before us this evening.
Unfortunately.
The way I view that is that I think there's an attempt in this design to unify the building a little more than it has, than it appears
you could
currently.
still see it.
Well, it
It's
exists.
unfortunate. We're looking at the addition, specifically the addition, the appropriateness of the addition. And for us to say no, we would have to say that that addition is not appropriate. Not any other feature of the house, but that specific addition is not appropriate. And in terms of the design, it's in keeping.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay? We don't disagree with you, we just don't like to use the word ugly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Any other public comment? Anything further from the board? All right, motion to approve.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the application of Diane Striano on David White's land.
The motion by Christina.
I second the motion.
Second by Susan, all in favor. Rob?
Can you start the other end, would you mind?
Okay. Jeff?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Rob? Nay. And I'm an aye.
Okay.
Oh, you're not signing these.
No, I'm going to sign the real plans.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next application, please.
The next application is Richard and Diane Chudley, who have applied for an addition, a one-story addition at 96 North Main Street.
Plans you're submitting today have no alterations for what currently exists, they're just smaller renderings?
Right on this. Oh, right.
So good evening, my name is Chris
Hold on a
Jeffrey. I'm
second. We
the
do
architect.
have the affidavit of posting and mailing.
Great. So I'm representing Diane and Richard Chudley.
Your name?
My name is Chris Jeffrey, I'm the architect. We've owned the house for quite a while. It's a nice, simple cottage structure. The idea here is to kind of remove the siding and the kind of lack of detailing that's been added to the house and restore it back to a more traditional nature. So there's a few different stages to the project. One is to kind of reestablish the old kind of cottage cedar shake style of the house, add an addition to expand their existing kitchen because it's kind of tiny, which is the off of the corner, the southwest corner. And then third is because they only have 2 bedrooms in the house, they have 2 kids, and they don't have a master suite, is to use the existing attic space as an additional master suite. So we'd be adding a bedroom in the existing attic space, conforming with all the egress and required energy efficiency standards and all that stuff.
This is not in historic district, but the building that currently is there, so it's a tear down, correct? Is it? No,
they're
it's not
just
there?
redoing.
Just redoing.
All we're doing is,
Outside.
you'll see that little blue
very
square in the
small.
bottom corner on the first page. We're just adding that little, it's a 4 foot.
That little
It's
blue
it's
block.
8 feet by 9 feet, plus or minus. addition on the corner of the house.
Yeah, okay.
And what we're doing, there's an existing gabled roof that covers the existing porch. So the idea is to kind of just expand that elevation and use that same roof line, which would then blend with the existing roof line, which faces North Main Street.
You're changing the facade, so the material now in the facade?
So right now, it's been covered in a metal siding, like an aluminum clad, and so we want to take all that off, replace the windows, all new trim, new Alaskan yellow cedar siding, and bring it back to its more kind of original feel of the house. The existing roofing will be remaining, but any of the new addition that we're going to be putting on will match that roofing, kind of that gray asphalt roofing.
I think it will be charming when it's done.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice trim.
A lot better than, I wish you luck in the process. There are no changes in the chimney detail, everything's going to remain.
No, we'll just make sure the flashing is watertight and all that, but the brick will be exposed and stay concurrent.
And the brick on the front porch currently
The front
exists?
porch, yeah, it's a little, we're going to repoint all the brick where it's all cracking. You'll notice there's kind of a nice little curved arch over the entry. We're going to remove all of the metal, cut metal that's been applied, and basically scrape that down, bring all the trim and detailing back to its original.
If we can get to an elevation so Charlie can see what we're talking about, and have it for reference. And I see the rear there's a Belco door. Is that existing?
That's an existing Belco, yes. That goes to an unfinished basement.
Excellent. And just point out where the changes will be done.
So this is the front elevation here.
Charlie,
This
can
is
zoom
the-
out a little? There you go. All right, you can point them out.
Perfect. So this is the repointing we were just talking about on the existing brick. This is the kind of the arched entry that right now is covered and clad in horrible metal. So we're going to pull all that off, remove all of that, repoint all the columns, redo the railing, and then this is where the new addition is, which is on this facade here. So right now the existing facade is only that long. We're adding this corner and, like I said, kind of extending the original gable to match with the original front facade, and basically that roof line will continue straight across.
Another modest addition. Jeff, any comments?
No, I don't.
Susan?
I have no objections.
Steve?
I have a couple questions. Sure. Over the entryway where the siding is coming off, is that going to be a paneled front to that, to the roof?
Here?
Yeah. What's that material?
So right now, that is covered in the same horrible metal cladding that the rest of the house is.
Right.
So we don't know what's underneath there. We're hoping it's the original wood detailing.
Yep.
So the intention is to remove that, see what's there, scrape it down, reprime it, finish it, and bring it back to its original character.
Okay, so you're hoping for either detailed or maybe wood paneling, and if it's pardon the French, crap under there, you'll put.
Yeah, we're gonna,
paneling.
exactly, we'll pull it off, we'll, we'll match the existing trim, any kind of detailing, corbelling that'll be underneath there.
So the only other concern or question I had has to do with the fenestration on the addition. When you look from the front, from the west, it's just a little funny to me to have that window up closer to the eave than the other windows and stuck in the corner there. And I think why you're doing that or why that's being done from an architectural standpoint. That combined with the blending of the roof lines, it's a little funny to have one roof plane that has two ridge lines to it. And I'd just like to see that addition called off more. But honestly, understanding what you're trying to do, I'm not sure there's a way to do that.
Really, it's a function of how the kitchen laid out.
Yes.
So their kitchen is really tiny. So by giving them this corner, it allows them to kind of use that corner as a place for the sink, so they can open the view to the yard and to the street a little more so it doesn't seem so closed off.
I think with everything else you're doing, I'm a big fan of the project. Could I ask that they consider maybe some landscaping that would delineate between the addition and the main house maybe, so that the original...
The driveway along there right now is a little bit all over the place, and I think that will be developed once we get to that stage of the project, because it is so adjacent to the street, so we'll take that into note.
I mean, if they could, in my case, if they could plant something right here at that division between the original house and the new addition, that would help break up those forms a little bit visually.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
All right.
Any public comment on the application? Anything further from the board?
No.
Motion to approve.
When you make the motion, do you want to include the request for landscaping?
Well, there's no landscape plan, so unless you're proposing that the applicant come back with a landscape plan,
I'm not proposing that. I'm just asking sort of as an advisory, if you could relate that to them.
Be aware of it and attentive to it.
So it's not required for them.
So you're not making it part of the approval? Okay. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Richard and Diane Chudley on North Main Street.
Motion by Christina, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan, all in favor.
Aye.
Jeff? Aye. Susan?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Good luck.
Great, thank you, everyone.
Are you signing these, Brian?
No, I already signed the plans aside. And our final non-historic application. Oh, and the one we moved, I'm sorry. Yeah.
The final, sorry, the next application is Sweeney and Guarneri, and that is located on the north side of Tellerto Street, number 19, Tellerto. And I'm just looking for the affidavits. Okay. There you go.
Reduced copies, have no changes to be
No
filed.
changes, sir. Lisa's Logan, I'm the architect for Brad and Marie Sweeney and Gariani. So this is, there's an existing house, an existing little 1.5-story cape that currently sits on this property. Our goal is to get them a little more space on the second floor. So I've basically, since the second floor currently is completely under the roof and I'm changing the roof pitch on the existing house, I'm basically taking off the second floor, if you will, and putting a steeper roof pitch on it with dormers. So I'm gaining more space on the second floor. I'm still just shy of 25 feet high, and you can see that's, majority of that reason is for the pyramid law.
Something that we can see at the same time?
Sorry. So the pyramid law lines here and here on either side of the house. The front of the house currently has one gable that faces the street, so I'm kind of recreating that, bumping out a little one-story entry foyer and creating a dormer facing the street on the other side for the bedroom. Changing the windows. Right now there's currently a kind of an older style picture window, putting in double hung windows, adding a fireplace along the east side. Traditional cedar shingle roof, white trim, cedar shingles
So
on the
the
walls.
east portion, the front gable that you've created there, or reverse gable, is that all new? Is that all new construction?
Yes.
Okay. And to the west, what exists and what are you replacing?
On the west, which, on the west elevation or to the western side of the
Western
street?
side of the front southern elevation.
This is the house as it currently stands, Curtis?
Yeah, I get that. I'm
Okay,
just
so there's
wondering
no,
why you're
I'm
making
adding
such an
this dormer.
aggressive
I'm adding this
pitch.
dormer here. I'm adding this dormer here. It's still, the square footage of this house is 1,946 square feet. I'm basically trying to get 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms on the second floor underneath the roof line.
And you wanted to keep the front, the reverse gable to a second story. Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm trying to keep it looking like a cute little 1.5-story house as opposed to making a full 2-story box with a roof on it.
If you could have made the box, just put a dormer to match the
Are you
west
talking about here on
elevation.
this front elevation?
I'm sorry, here. Yes.
Are you talking about because this has a 2-story feel? And yeah, that would be symmetrical. I kind of liked the fact that I tied it into the front mudroom being pulled forward. It gave it balance, but not perfectly symmetrical.
And such a modest design, I think symmetrical would have been.
I could, in order to do that, I mean, I wouldn't have gotten the size inside for the master bedroom, bathroom. So I was trying to-
Jeff, what are your comments?
I like the design, and I like the asymmetry of it. And it's a nice, it's a positive move on that house. I like the fenestration. I think overall, it's a good design.
Susan?
I have no objections. I love the little old house, of course, but that's just not the way we live anymore, so I have no objections.
Rob, comments?
I don't have any comments.
Christine?
I have no comments. I think it's a good design.
Any public comment on the application?
I do.
You step forward, please. Just wait till you get here so we can have it on record.
I'm the neighbor on her north.
Okay, your name for the record
Peter
again?
Mariotti. I'm concerned about her garage. Garage is 4 feet away from on the property line. And I'm curious what she's going to do with the garage.
Are you proposing?
I'm worried about it being a guest house or a pool house. And also, there's a window on that garage that looks, on the north side, that looks right out on my pool. I would like it removed.
Are you proposing to do anything to the garage?
Yes.
Okay.
It's currently a 2-car garage. I'm keeping 1 car, putting my pool equipment in there, and putting a little sitting room and a bathroom for the pool.
So the portion that will be occupied as a quasi pool house is the portion that's away from your property?
4 feet away from my property.
No, it's on the other side.
It's on the opposite side of your
Oh, wait,
property.
where am I?
Your property's here.
I'm sorry, I'm over
So
here.
this is stays as a garage.
Oh, okay. Well, this window, then I would have a problem with.
That's the garage
That's the
door.
garage door.
That's the garage door?
That's the garage door. The street is here.
Street is here. Okay, so then this is my, is this the window?
No, that's actually that's the doors to the pool equipment.
Okay, then these are 2 windows that I'm concerned with?
Not if you're on the north side. Are you saying you're on the north side? Are you talking about this window?
I'm on the north side of your house.
Okay, so then you're talking about the window in the bathroom.
Yes,
That's an existing window right now?
it's an existing window. But now, this is still 4 feet away from my pool. It's going to be a guest house.
It's not.
It's not be a guest house.
Can't be.
There's going to be a pool, a bathroom.
That doesn't make it a guest house. A bedroom makes it a guest house.
So there's going to be, but there are going to be people living in it, 4 feet away from mine.
We have, let's just understand something. You're referring to use?
Yes.
You believe that this is going to be occupied, whether legal or illegal, this board does not discuss and doesn't have the purview of the use. We're looking at architecture.
Well, all right.
So you would have to talk to the building department and code enforcement if you feel that it's going to be occupied in an appropriate manner.
Okay, I would speak to the building department then. This garage was built probably in the 50s where 4 feet away from the property line was legal, but it's not legal anymore.
But they're not tearing it down and building a new one, so they...
But she's putting a bathroom in it. All right, I will discuss that with the building department.
It actually is 5 feet, which...
I measured it today.
Well, I don't know, according to the survey, it's 5 feet, which actually you can put a garage 5 feet off the property line these days, but it's 5 feet.
You have questions, well, understand that the building's not moving. So even if it were pre-existing non-conforming, it's not moving. So they're not going to relocate the building, they're not going to pick it up, they're not going to...
Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with it if it was remaining as a garage. But if it's going to be a living facility, I have a problem with it. But as you said, I'll have to discuss that with the building department.
Are you making any changes to the materials on that garage?
We'll re-side it and re-roof it the same
Similar
as, yeah,
shingle
same as the house.
materials?
The roof isn't going to change in height, is it?
No. The building, the structure itself will remain exactly the same size, the same shape, the same everything, just resurfaced.
Now what about the window?
It's a little window in the bathroom.
I'm more concerned.
And these are...
Those are doors to get to the pool equipment, so that they can walk out there and get to the pool.
Well, then that's another problem. She has her pool equipment 4 feet away from my property line.
Inside the building.
It's inside the building.
And that's still all right? I'm going to have to listen to it?
Inside the building, you should be glad.
Oh, yes, I will. Oh, yes, I will.
Again, you
Again, the building
functionality,
department.
those are, now, you are putting in the building, I'm sorry, you're putting it in the building. I don't think there's any guidelines with regards to pool equipment and setbacks.
If it's outside the building, there are setbacks.
Correct, but inside.
Inside the building is what the village tries to encourage.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Any other public comment? Board members, is there a motion on the application?
I make a motion that we approve the application of Sweeney and Donieri on Pelletier Street.
Motion by Christina, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan, all in favor. Susan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Rob? I'm an aye as well.
Thank you, have a good night.
Good night.
You too.
Now we're doing the Wikipog.
All right, next
The
application.
next
will be Wickpog.
application is Wikipog 1 LLC. This is an addition to an existing property, two-story addition. Oh.
We're going to number.
No, we're going to
This was-
Wickpog number 6. It's not in the historic
not
district, it's
historic.
improperly listed.
It'll be
That's okay.
quick.
The last item on the historic agenda was miscategorized as non-historic, so we've moved it up. Okay. This is for construction of a 5,848 square foot two-story addition to an existing dwelling at 145 Wickapog, and there's the affidavit of mailing.
Okay, this is a amendment to an existing, existing approval, correct?
Correct.
All right. What
Name's
is,
Charles Regensburg, owner and builder.
all right.
I believe there was a,
The issue, I believe, on this application was that the neighbor has some concerns about not being properly posted and mailed.
We abandoned our finding, right?
I'm sorry?
We abandoned our previous.
We
approval
abandoned
of
our,
this.
exactly. So now, if there's any, there's been no change on the application, correct? We'll see if there's any public comment on it now that there's been some communications to this board that a neighbor did not have the opportunity to discuss or talk about the application.
Right.
Is there any public comment?
Yes.
Please step forward.
My name is Bridget Fitzgerald. I'm at 135 Wickapog, which is on the west side of the house. So thank you guys also for allowing me the opportunity to review the plan. I don't want to waste anybody's time. The main thing that I had issue with was the second story deck that is being built. I feel like it's a very narrow lot. Again, I don't need anyone kind of like just looking in our backyard. When the house on the other side of me was built, I spent over $50,000 in landscape architecture to make it look really nice for both and create privacy. I'm not looking to have to do that every time something's built. So I definitely want to say that this second story deck is an issue for me. That's one. Do we want to discuss it before I move to any of the others?
No, well, if you have any other comments about, and we'll discuss each one individually.
Yep.
Because I know we did speak in detail, I believe, in the application about the second story deck, but basically, we'll get all your comments in, and then we'll respond to your comments.
Okay. The other was that on the landscape plan, I felt like there was nothing on that plan that actually showed any screening for any of the neighbors on any side. It was very kind of more of a drawing versus an actual landscape architecture plan. It doesn't provide me with any idea of what will be screened in. The privet that they say is the existing privet is actually on my property entirely. So I'm actually considering taking that privet out to put a fence up. This will obviously be something that you guys review. I'm having an architect put it together now. And the reason for that is actually for all parties, just because I have dogs. And when they start building there, I don't think any neighbor is going to be happy with my dogs barking all day long. So I am looking with the landscape architect to see what I can do to make sure that my dogs can't see the people going in and out for the build. So I think that his plan needs to not consider that existing privet, since it is privet that's on my property and may not be there. And then the other thing was on that actual landscape plan, it shows the barn, which I believe you said when I watched the video that barn was being demoed.
Then he retracted that, I believe.
right,
So you're keeping the barn?
rebuilding it, yes.
Okay. And then there's also other structures that were on the property that aren't showing up on that plan, right? So there's.
The cottage?
Well,
Some
so there's the house. Behind the house is another little pool house type cottage. Nope. And then there's the cottage behind that.
Okay.
Which is the one that you see, the cottage that's behind it, that I know he's keeping as is. It's a very lovely cottage, no issues with that, but there is also a shed on the property. And so basically, it's the main house, a shed, a pool house type guest house, then the cottage, and then the barn.
Okay.
So I wanted to understand if there was a permit for the demolition of which structures. I wasn't clear on that from some, not necessarily concerned, more just curious on what's being demoed and what's being redone.
Okay, there is a partial demo of dwelling. I see the second-story addition on the permit itself. I don't know if it was specific on which structures were going to be removed, but we'll question the applicant and see, bring some clarity to that for you, so you have the opportunity to hear that for yourself. As for the screening, this board takes a snapshot on present day, on whenever we look at and review the application. If there's sufficient screening there presently, then we take that in consideration. If you decide or elect to remove that screening, it's your discretion to do so, but then you're taking away from the privacy that currently exists there. What you're saying is you want him to add another layer of buffer.
Privacy that exists there wouldn't be privacy, especially if he built a second-story deck regardless, because it would be above that anyway.
Well,
so.
That's an argument that I think this board's been consistent about, and that will be addressed this evening as well.
Okay.
Because you are, and at that time, fortunately but unfortunately, there was no neighbor here complaining or
I just
any issue with the second-story deck. I see that the deck is in depth, not that long, not that large, but in width, it does encompass 2 rooms? 2 rooms. Yep. So there will be some activity on the second-story deck, and we'll now question the applicant to see if there's going to be anything addressing those privacy issues or concerns.
Okay, I just have one more thing that I'm not sure if it's for this board or a different board, or it just might be a question that you can answer for me. When the house was zoned last, prior to him buying it, it was zoned as a multi-purpose, multi-structure house?
Talking zoning.
Okay, because now it's a multi-residence house, and I wanted to understand, does that mean like you're creating multiple, like flag lot type things at some point, that you changed the zoning?
No.
Okay. So that was my last.
Are there any other questions?
Oh, yes, one other thing. There's an existing pool there right now. This has been a problem, and I know it's a problem for multiple neighbors. It's never been covered.
Out of our purview.
So it's completely filled up with water. And so it's disgusting to look at. It's really disgusting. It's all just dark rainwater.
Still out of our purview.
It's out of yours.
Even if you were to propose the pool as new construction, it's out of our purview.
Okay, great. So then I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just listen until we respond to some of the questions that you have. The applicant had questions about the screening, questions about the second-story deck.
And the structures.
And the structures that will be removed. If we can go over, first we'll start with the individual structures that currently exist and that which will be removed. Why he's going to...
So
You're going to have to get closer. I don't know if
I'm not sure if this is going to really help us.
Okay.
You might have the drawing that shows what's existing there now. Let's see.
I believe the survey that we have has both existing conditions and proposed conditions.
Well, can we bring that to the table?
Well, that's what you have there in front of you.
Right there.
I don't know if this is it.
That just has one.
There should be another one that's showing what's existing, and I don't have that. But that might be in the package that you have.
This is the proposed.
And existing.
Existing and...
That's what we need.
Is that this one?
No, that's the proposed.
Do you have an extra one of these?
No, I don't. But it's in, it was...
You can foil the file and make a copy.
So that only shows...
So if you can
So the
just show...
existing, yeah, so the existing conditions, which is on your left, shows the existing house, okay, the pool, a small barn, another like partial framed garage, which is, both of these are dilapidated, so these will be removed. Obviously, the pool will be removed, because that's going to be in place with the house. And then going north to the rear of the property, the cottage obviously is staying, and then the barn, which we are redoing, and then that's it. Then to the right, to your left, or your right, is the conditions that we're proposing.
Just so that you understand as well, the property is located outside of the historic district. So he has the right to actually file for a demolition without coming before this board, unless we determine any of those structures are contributing structures within the historic district.
Got it. So the only thing that, just so, for the board, I actually proposed to buy the property. When I did, I obviously did a ton of investigation to understand what I could demo and what I couldn't, because a lot of the structures need to be demoed.
Can you pick her up, Charlie? Okay.
So when I did do that, I looked in 2015 that there was a historian that actually went and said that they wouldn't advise demoing any of the structures. That's why the only reason I was asking is what was being demoed and what isn't. I'm not suggesting, I do believe they should be demoed. So, because it was more of a, I'm happy to hear that those are going to be demoed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't but I didn't see it on the plan, so I wasn't sure because I thought the barn was, so I just wanted to make sure we were clear on what is staying and what's going.
And can you see that survey now that shows you existing and proposed?
Yeah, I mean, what he called out, I mean, because I've lived next door to them for 5 years.
The right
This
side
one?
of, yeah.
This is the existing.
Yep, okay, yep, so the cottage, the barn, right, this is the garage, there's like that little shed and the little house thing, right, yeah. So that's what's there now, yeah.
Right.
Second question, there was some privacy issues, concerns. Will you be adding any screening at all?
Well, we're going to take a look at that, because that hedge, it's been there for how many years?
I know.
Okay.
You don't want to listen to my dogs, I'm telling you.
We'll have to take a look at if the hedge is actually on the property line, your property, or my property. Either way, we would like to have screening there.
Yeah.
I mean, I
And
wouldn't want to
just-
see a fence. Like, I don't even know what kind of fence you're proposing.
I literally hired like one of the top architectural like you could see my property is like
What
I've
are
done
you
so much.
proposing,
So
like a stockade
he's
fence?
putting together something.
So
No,
this
it's going
sounds
to be
like a
very
neighbor
pretty.
discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have issues or concerns, knowing that now that there will be potentially some screening added to the property itself? Or are you looking for this board to look into additional screening to, I guess, preserve your privacy and your concerns about the second-story deck?
I think that the plan doesn't call out what is really being screened, to be honest. For me, there's nothing that's being added other than what's already there. And what's already there, I mean, you haven't seen the privet when it's in the summer, but it's even though it's pretty old, there's a lot of dead areas of
It needs
it.
to be maintained.
Yeah, well, it's also,
Hasn't been
yeah.
cared for at all.
So I think that there needs to be additional screening, and that could, especially if you're taking down a lot of those bigger trees, which I assume you are for some of this. I think there needs to be additional screening, but I think what the screening needs to be is also dependent on where you guys vote on that second-story deck.
Neighbors have some issues, some concerns about the second-story deck. I'd like to know the impact of the line of sight to the neighbors. So
are we
just so that we understand what's
About 35 feet away from the property line.
from the okay, so it's quite a ways away from your property, the second-story deck. It's actually on the other side of the building itself. It's from the furthest portion of the building.
Yeah, the rear, but it's still looking right, you could
And
look
that
right into my
dimension
backyard.
facing her is about 6 feet.
How big is the deck?
It's 6 feet in depth, and
And about
if it were one deck, it would be a Juliet balcony.
It's about 6 feet deep from the back of the house and about 18 to 20 feet wide.
So it's not likely, it's not trying to be objective, it's not going to be a party deck with 6 feet.
Not to
No, and I'm not taking any-
belittle
I'm
a
trying to be-
complaint or a concern of the neighbor. Obviously, there won't be entertaining happening on the second-story deck, but it doesn't stop a person from going out.
Oh, sure. So I would imagine there would be a bistro table and a couple of chairs or something like
I don't
that.
even think that.
6 feet?
6 feet?
Good
It's
luck.
a runway.
Yeah.
It's off the bedroom.
For a person to walk.
Very little.
How necessary is it even then? I mean, it's not, you're not sitting out on this balcony and looking in over the
No,
ocean
you're
or
looking
water.
at over an acre of property, which is all going to be manicured. So walking outside your master suite and overlooking the yard, that's what you're looking
You're
at.
looking at basically,
And
all those
structures.
lots are very narrow.
Yes, they are.
And you're basically just looking, it's a huge privacy thing for me. I just feel like I have spent so much money on screening myself in. You buy these really expensive homes, and I am here year-round, so, I'm not somebody who just comes out on the weekends and in the summer, so.
So,
Don't belittle the summer people.
Well, I'm not belittling.
I know
I'm
that
just
wasn't your
saying I'm
intent,
here.
but I'm becoming increasingly more sensitive. The summer
how
folks
high are the
maintain this
the
community.
hedges now?
The privet is approximately like 12 feet.
12 feet.
And we have every intention to, obviously nurture it, feed it, and get it to it so it's a real healthy hedge.
If
But whose hedge
If
is
it's
it?
mine.
It's
I'm
my
thinking,
hedge, and I have nurtured and maintained and replaced parts of it and even built more privet on the other side. I've literally spent so much money on landscaping, so that's something you will see from me. It's always going to be nice.
According to the survey, it looks as though the hedge zigzags a little bit on either side of the property line. When you get to the rear of the house, which is where this deck is, the hedge appears to be primarily on your side of the property line, at least according to the survey.
Board members, you have the neighbor's code. We see some of the evidence of the application. We see that the dimensions of the second-story deck. Do you believe that it still poses concerns that we should look into some type of remedy to resolve maybe a complaint or two, maybe a tree, maybe something to obstruct the overall?
I believe that having met her tonight, I think that we can come to a reasonable working together on screening. I'm all favored for that. I can tell you that we want the same just as much as you want. And we can work together on that. But to come back and try to change what we have already had approval on with this rear deck, I think that's a little beyond for me to really, take that into consideration.
And you won't remove the deck.
It brings character to the house instead of just having it all one box. But I do believe that we can come to an area that where the deck is protruding out, bring it across that line and maybe put some type of higher hedge that it wouldn't,
A
you
hedge
wouldn't
is
see.
never going to stop from a deck from seeing. My neighbor's top window on the other side can look into, a hedge does not cover. That's why I had to put in these huge tulip trees that God knows where they came from that cost a fortune. But my point is that's not going to screen it. Hedges aren't going to screen second-story decks. They're just, that's
So
not.
your neighbor to the west of you has a deck.
The neighbor to the west, does not have a deck. They have this huge window that I don't know why they built, that I basically had to screen because it's like the side of a house. And you can literally just, as you're in the window, sitting in the room, look into my backyard.
Right. Again, this sounds like a neighbor issues and concerns.
I don't want the deck.
From the appropriateness, I'm just going to address the appropriateness of the second-story deck for each board member. Do you feel that the second-story deck is an issue or concern and something the neighbors should discuss and try to work out a remedy? Jeff?
It sounds like the deck is part of the architecture, is okay, subject to screening and satisfactory screening, which they want to do, so I'm not...
Susan?
I agree with Jeff.
Christina?
I agree.
I agree, and I would just throw out, since it's on the back of the house, if you wanted to consider, I'm just saying you could consider and discuss with your neighbor a lattice or some sort of side to that, not just landscape screening, but something that might tastefully fit in with the rest of the architecture. That's something to consider.
We have another public comment. Could you step
sorry.
forward?
I was trying to catch your attention.
No, I saw you back there.
Oh, you have. I'm here from Nika Strunk's office, and this is usually Nika's thing, but we represent...
Your name, please?
Pam Harms. Okay. And we represent Virginia and Peter Dimsey, who live at 10 Cobblestone, so it's behind.
Okay.
Their main concern, and Nika wrote a letter, which I have copies of for everyone here, is the barn that's in the back. They feel that it's not capable of being restored.
They're rebuilding it.
Is it being knocked down? Because
It's not being knocked down, it's being restored.
Okay, so they feel that it is not capable of being restored.
Well, how would they feel?
It's the applicant's discretion on, again, I want to get to, this is not in the historic district. Don't have a lot of leverage with regards to whether a accessory structure could be demoed, should be restored. The applicant's proposing to do such, and he or she has the discretion to do so. It's a matter of fact, all they do have to do is file a demo permit and knock it down if they chose without coming before this board. So we had we're a little weaker outside of the historic district than we do within it.
And that's it. That's their main concern.
Thank you. Actually, question every one of the board members with regards to appropriateness. Does it seem like the board members has any concerns about the appropriateness of the second-story deck? Sounds like it's two neighbors that need to discuss remedies to resolve some of these line of sight or privacy issues, concerns. Even now, you made comments that you were going to tear the hedges or the hedges down. It sounds like the two of you need to come to a meeting with a mind to discuss that. And we really try to encourage that before the application comes before this board. So we would hope that you do so. We wanted to open the application so that you had the opportunity to voice your concerns. I think a lot of it was addressed. I don't think we were able to get 100% of it, but most of it was at least resolved with regards to what's being torn down and what's going to be remain.
So the one that you discussed before, 100 Pulaski, though, where you said that this was like a principle that you guys kind of follow with second-story decks, why would this be any different?
Well, it's deep. If I could address it, that deck, as it was previously proposed, was about 22 feet from the property line. This is about 35 feet, so it's a little further.
It's still not far enough that you can't see into the backyard.
Yeah, and that deck also was, I believe, 18 or 20 feet deep and about 20 feet wide. So it's a much, much more substantial deck. Even though it was off a bedroom, there was concerns about what a deck that size could allow in terms of activity. So that was the driver of the concern in particular.
Not privacy.
No, it was with respect to privacy, but,
But their privacy then doesn't change, and that argument is my point, because the privacy is still an issue. Like the privacy, whether the deck is big, as far as how far you can step on it, or how it's still a privacy
So
issue.
you heard us say that we would recommend that they talk about screening with respect to
That's a recommendation, though, not a mandate.
Well, he's
But we haven't
back.
approved
We haven't
it.
made a decision.
We haven't made a decision. First and foremost, I just want to make sure that we as a board, as a whole, understand that we're looking at the appropriateness of the second-story deck, whether it is appropriate for the deck to exist, and if the amount of privacy concerns with regards to that second-story deck amounts to having it either removed or replaced with some other feature. That's the question I wanted to ask each one of the board members, and I don't want to put any words in anyone's mouth, but it seemed that every board member agreed that it was appropriate, correct? All right.
Yes.
So therefore, it's still, I understand your concerns and I understand the argument. We're not in a position right now, or I should say the board's in the position right now to hear your complaints, hear your concerns, but now it feels that it's still appropriate after the dialogue, after your comments, after your complaint. We still believe that the second-story deck is appropriate, and therefore there doesn't seem to be any recommendation of any alternative plan. Yes, ma'am. Is there something new that you want to add to?
I just want to add
your name for the
a
record,
couple of
please.
things, yeah.
Your name?
My name is Duran Telberg, and I presently reside at 145 Wickapog Road. I was born and raised on this property, so I know it inside and out. Regarding the hedge is on the property line. It's not on 145, and it's not 135. The portion towards the back was new hedge put in by the builder at 135 to match the height and the screening privacy of the existing hedge. That I don't know if it's on the property line or not. I do recall when the surveys were done, the stakes were in the middle of the hedge all the way up, and it's a 13-foot high hedge. Regarding the balcony, I mean, all of the 135, 127, and another lot down the street originally were all one piece of property. However, it was divided into 3 pieces in 1956, and it kept that way with the taxes. And therefore, in 2006 and on, it was developed and sold as narrow pieces of property. When 135 was built next to me at 35-foot high ridge height, they didn't have a balcony, but they have second-story windows. And so my privacy was gone in my yard. So there's no difference between second-story windows and a balcony. You're not going to have privacy. You know, putting in a tree behind the detached garage, that would be, you know, amenable, but it's just the nature of those lots and the houses that, you know.
You get what you get.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more public comment? Just while we have the application still open, I see you have representation. Is there any comments from council?
No, not at this. So you're going to hold it open, correct?
I don't believe there was any reason to do so, but we'll see if the board wants to continue to keep the application open. Is there any further comment by?
Landscaping plan?
I think the only open issue is the landscaping, which I think the board is suggesting that we discuss with...
The two of you discuss together, okay. Just want to make sure I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth. We're not asking for an additional landscaping plan, correct?
That's
Rob?
correct.
No.
Mr. Chairman, one question, because I had raised the last time here, the jurisdictional issue. You said you now had an affidavit of posting, of mailing and posting. When was the affidavit sworn to?
You have it.
The affidavit of mailing was sworn to on February 15th, 2018.
But it was not submitted to the board until now, is that correct?
But yes, it was submitted to the board on March 26, 2018.
Okay. After the last meeting.
Okay. Just for the record, my client says she didn't receive that. But she's here now, so.
Very good. Jeff?
I guess I'm a little befuddled. I'm not sure with all the discussion, almost 20 minutes about screening, that we're now willing to accept the application without a landscaping plan. I fully respect your intentions to do what you say you're going to do, but in the past, we've requested landscape plans, so I'm just confused about the process. If everything is done on faith...
As part of the original application, there was whether it's a sketch design or any type of additional rendering, there was a design showing existing and what will be proposed. The applicant's not proposing any additional screening as of right now, and it's been discussed that he will have comments and discussions and negotiations with the neighbor. Are you saying that you want those negotiations to take place here on the board?
What I have in my notes from 2 meetings ago, that we okayed it with a landscaping plan that had been submitted, rendered or otherwise, with a zigzag arborvitae.
Correct. That letter is coupled, I don't know if you have that up there, but Lear Mahoney. Okay. Yes, in the rear of the property.
And the height of those arborvitae, that's the very rear, or that's the
rear of the property that's going to screen the barn.
The north property line.
Okay. Well, would you be willing to put it on the side that's neighboring?
I think they have room, Jeff. It's too narrow.
It's driveway.
Yeah.
Driveway? Okay.
Susan, anything further?
No, I feel like there is screening now. If the neighbor wants to take it down, that's her business, but at this point, and I do feel that 6 feet is that the lord of the manor might go out with a cup of coffee for 20 seconds and look at his backyard, but that's about it. The 6
Did you say
feet.
Lord of the Manor?
Yes, the lord of the manor. Well, he has a barn.
Isn't that the way your wife refers?
Playhouse and a few other things.
You're not referred to as that?
No. And that,
I
I
have a little Juliet balcony that I go out with a cup of coffee.
And I feel that these are unfortunately very narrow lots, which is sort of what I consider in all these weird cases, the original sin, was that they made them narrow, and now we have these. The houses on either side of your project are very big, and yours will be big too. And so I feel like that's the nature of the beast, and so I don't feel that there's anything very different between those.
Christina?
No, I'm fine with the balcony.
Rob? All right, and therefore, yes.
Just before you close it, we would request that you do leave it open, however, for the landscaping plan to be revisited, especially if the board's encouraging Ms. Fitzgerald to meet with the owner to discuss this. There's no enforcement of that if this board were to close that out. So that I think if you leave it open, we can have that discussion. We can discuss it with them right now afterwards. Leave it open. If they can reach an agreement, that's wonderful. If not, the board will have to make a determination. But if you decide it now, what teeth does it have to go out and have this discussion afterwards?
Okay, well, see how the board feels.
Well, you're
Jeff?
saying to hold it open for a second call?
No, he's saying holding it open, adjourn the application and have him come back with a...
Yeah, my client also has retained the landscape architect who's going to look into this as well, so that...
Right. Well, I mean, Susan's point is well taken, that there's hedging there, there's screening there. The fact that a neighbor wants to take it down should not become the burden of the applicant. If the applicant, if there were no screening there, it would be a different situation, but there is screening there. So I don't think he's under any obligation other than to be neighborly. And if we're okay with the balcony, then...
Well, I think he is neighborly, so I feel...
If I may, the lot is a challenging lot.
I think
Agreed. The original sin, right?
Rob, any comments? Okay, Christine. All right, so unfortunately, it doesn't seem to have the votes of the board for us to hold it over to another meeting for purposes of a landscape plan.
The only thing I would add to Mr. Broadleaf's comment is if that hedge belongs to my client, it should not be part of someone else's landscaping scheme.
But it exists.
To walk in and say, I don't need the screen because the
I think
neighbor
I mentioned before, we
has
take a snapshot of the conditions of the site currently, and based on that, there's sufficient screening to accept a second-story deck. If the applicant or a neighbor decides after the fact to remove that screening, unfortunately, that would be the discretion of the neighbor to do so.
Realize though that a hedge does not screen a second-story deck, it just doesn't. That's why I had to put in big trees on the other side of me. So hedging doesn't matter, whether the hedging is there or not, it's not screening.
I reviewed it with everyone, one of the board members, and every board member feels the same way. Therefore, the motion would be to reaffirm the...
We have to approve it.
Yeah, we have to reaffirm the...
Motion to approve.
Reaffirm the approved application for Wicapog 1 LLC.
I move that we approve the application of Wicapog 1 LLC, 145 Wicapog Road.
Motion by Susan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Christina. All in favor? Rob? Aye. Christina?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And I as well. That concludes our non-historic applications for this evening. First application, historic, is adjourned until May 2018. So that adjournment was pre-existing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Sorry.
This is all the same.
It's adjourned to what, May 14th?
It just says May 2018. It doesn't give an actual
I thought we
date.
gave it a date, didn't we?
It does.
So,
May 14th.
May 14th. So we stand on that May 14th date. All right. The next application, 472 First Neck LLC. This is a matter of point of reference. This board met with council. In discussions with council, we decided and elected to reopen the application specific for and only limited to alleged conversations and communications between our historic consultant, Zach Studenroth, and consultant for the applicant. That's the matter that will be heard. There will be no other discussions or details.
I have an objection to the actual procedure of the reopening, and that's appropriate to be heard right now. And if you don't
well,
let me
let's
hear
open
that-
the application so it's part of record.
No. If you don't let me hear those objections right now, it's a denial of my due process before we even get to the reopening of it. It's a question as to the propriety, my position as to the propriety of your very action in doing it. So, under section 105 of the open meetings law.
One second, just so we understand who's in the room.
No, it was
It's a significant due process.
Excuse me, we're going back and forth. First, unfortunately, Wayne is recused from this application and therefore cannot comment on the application. Second of all, this board has made its discussion, it's made its decision, it's had communication with council. It's your motion to object is on, your motion to object is on record. And,
It's illegal. No. I'm going to tell you why, and if you don't let me tell you why, and you're denying me due process. There's a letter in the file. No. You had wait a minute. No. You can't do this. That's a denial of due process. You illegally went into executive session. You didn't vote to go into executive session.
You're not even allowing me to finish now.
Wait, are you going to let me speak?
No, because you're not allowing me to finish.
Are you going to let me speak afterwards?
I will allow you to have a small period of time to discuss this, but let me finish. This board discussed that, and now by resolution in the public hearing, will vote to reopen the application. So that now that's part of an open forum discussion and approval before
At a
this body.
subsequent date.
And will be at a subsequent date for discussion, but will not be tonight.
Okay, if I may. The letter that I received said you took action in executive session.
And further conversation, further dialogue, unfortunately, because it was not a public action, by resolution of public action, that reopening will happen tonight.
So you're going to vote tonight. Now, that's fine. So let me move to the 2 second points, okay? A board can only reconsider its determination upon a showing of new facts unavailable to the objectants at the time of the hearing. Mr. Fife's, the whole claim that you're looking at was a letter from Mr. Fife that was in the record on before you closed the public hearing. You can shake your head, Susan, but the law is the law.
So
this is not, you know what? This is not the law.
We have been instructed we have had conversation. At this point, this board at this point will do so, and for specific purposes of only one matter, and that is the conversation and discussion, or alleged conversations or communications between consultants, and that's it.
I understand,
so
but you
this
have
board
to let
has
me
done
be,
so.
You have to let me be heard on the propriety of doing this, otherwise you're denying my due process.
Is there a motion to approve?
You have to let me be heard on your propriety of doing this, otherwise you're denying my due process.
Is there a motion to approve reopening the application for limited purposes of alleged communication between consultant
you have to let me be
As a matter of fact, I'll make the motion, so that way there's no issue. My motion is to approve the reopen of the application for 472 First Neck Lane for the sole and specific purposes of discussing
You read my letter
communications
in response to this.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Historic consultant and consultant for the applicant.
Second.
That motion was by me. It was second by Jeff. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Susan?
Yes.
Christina?
I kind of want to read this letter.
I have a letter in, I'm entitled to have it read, I'm entitled to be heard on the propriety of your motion, and your unwillingness to do so is the denial of the Administrative Procedures Act, it's the denial of my basic right to due process. You should hear my objections to your reopening it, and I will be succinct.
Okay. We're standing on the motion right now. Is the motion standing? Are you saying that you don't want to vote on the motion?
I've never heard this board do anything like this before. When you opened up 40 Meadow Lane, you had
We'll
half an hour
we'll skip over Christina. Rob?
I vote aye.
Okay, so we have
Motion holds.
consensus of the board, but Christina, for purposes of finalizing the record, were you saying yes or no? Yes, so it was an aye across the board. So
That's an illegal action, by the way.
therefore, the application has been reopened, but for those sole purposes alone, it will not be discussed this evening. This will be at our April 23rd meeting, giving opportunity for the matter to be properly advertised. And at this point, I want a motion to close, adjourn the application.
Not only have you denied my due right,
Motion
my
to
due
adjourn
process, but
the
you've also
application
gone past your
until
time in which to make your
April
decision.
23rd. Is there
Motion
another
to adjourn
violation.
the application until our April 23rd meeting.
motion by Susan? Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Rob. All in favor? Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
I'm going to say one last thing.
Aye.
Jeff? And I as well.
In the words of Walter in the movie The Big Lebowski, this is not Vietnam, there are rules.
Understood. Thank you. Next application, please. It's a letter requesting an adjournment. Is there a date that letter is being adjourned, requesting to adjourn to?
I didn't see that.
No, adjourned for a month, roughly.
That's-
Will you get back to us on a
May
specific date,
12th?
or should we put it on agenda for a meeting in May?
Run at the last meeting in May, if that's okay
We've
with you
adjourned
guys.
it. We don't
That's
have a
been
last
canceled.
meeting.
Oh, so put it
because
on the
of-
first meeting in June. That's fine.
June, what's that date?
June 11th.
Making the motion.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion to approve the applicant's request to adjourn the application until June 11th.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant Thomas and Meredith Joyce on Hill Street request to adjourn until June 11th.
Thank you.
Motion by Christina, is there a second?
I second the
Second by
motion.
Susan, all in favor. Jeff?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
How we doing?
I think Wayne went home.
Oh, could someone ask him to return, please?
I think he's right out here.
He went to get a glass of water. Come back, come back. All right. Should I call the next?
Call the next application, please.
Next application is Chappelle and Anderson, 465 Hill Street, construct garage.
Don't you miss us?
And there are affidavits.
This is a long call.
There are affidavits of both posting and mailing.
Okay, affidavits of posting and mailing are on file. Your name for the record.
I'm Brian Brady. I'm the architect for the applicant.
Oh, you're looking tan, Brian. Oh, well, it's pretty bad. Here. In his fire truck. No.
Proceed.
Okay, this is an application for a one-car garage. And it is on a property that's owned by my clients. It's an historic home. It's actually one of the oldest homes in Southampton. So if you look at the plan for the garage, we're placing it directly opposite a family room that's there, creating a courtyard for a kitchen and cutting garden. The materials for the garage will mimic the house exactly. So it's painted white shingles, black shutters, wood roof. They are preservationists, so we are getting historic brick for the water table. We are actually having the windows made to be the exact profile of the original house. And basically, that's it.
So you literally have to go through an entire right-of-way to the rear of the property to enter into gates to go into this garage.
Right.
So it can't be seen from any...
Can't be seen from anywhere. And the purpose of the garage is actually to store a car off-season. It's not going to be used on a
Are
daily
the
basis.
gates on this application?
No, the gates are there.
Oh, they're there. Okay, sorry.
All right.
Okay.
It's in a historic district. I think the nature and materials that are being used match and mimic what currently exists. I don't think that... And what's being proposed is minimum impact to the surrounding area, but also specifically, there's no view from any purview or right-of-way, so there wouldn't be any impact. Rob, any questions?
No questions.
Susan, any questions?
No.
Christina, any questions?
No.
Jeff, any questions?
Not at all, it's cute.
Any public comment on the application? Don't need to tell you that it's in a historic district and therefore it requires a written decision. So we'll have that at our next meeting.
Great,
All right, motion to close for a written decision.
I make a motion to close for written decision and approve and close for written decision the...
Approve. Just
For written decision, the application of Chappelle and Anderson at 465 Hill Street to construct a one-story garage.
Motion by Rob. Is there a second by Christina? All in favor. Rob?
Aye.
Christina?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And our final application for this evening.
Final application for this evening is Elm Street Holdings. This is a property on 120 Elm Street in the Historic District, and this is to construct a 1,100 or nearly 1,200 square foot, 1- and 2-story additions to a dwelling. Let me check for the affidavits.
Good evening.
Good
Pam
evening.
Pospisil and Brown Architects.
Just hold while we check for affidavits of mailing them.
I have them here.
She has small
She's
sets.
got small ones.
Yeah.
Or you put what you're handing in now, submitting now, mimic and our replications of what currently exists. There's been no alterations to the plans, correct?
That's correct.
And we do have the affidavits of mailing and post.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go, Zach.
You want the large plans or you want to?
So basically, this project can be divided into sort of 5 specific, very small parts. First is this existing large wing at the back of the house is a garage with a second-story living space above. And we're abandoning that as a garage and converting that to living space, but we're taking out the second floor. So it's one large, big, great room.
Just as point of record.
Yes.
Contributing?
I hope not.
I don't believe so.
It was added on.
Yeah, the roof line looks like it was there.
But the whole
I mean,
house or the garage?
I want confirmation, but
You're talking about the core structure?
yes.
I would have to double check. I don't think it's
Yeah,
within,
show him the pictures.
When was the original house constructed?
I would say, I'm not 100,
1910-ish?
yeah, I was going to say turn of the century. I'm not 100% sure on the exact date. I'm sorry, when I was saying that, I was referring to the back wing, which was clearly an add-on.
So Zach,
the question, the question for me would be, the core building is certainly from the 1890s, 80s, or 90s, so that qualifies. But if the integrity of the entire ensemble, so to speak, was deemed to be compromised, it may not have been considered as contributing. So I have to double check it.
I think just for, we're going to start the practice of having reports for historic, especially
I didn't
applications
have
such
a
as
chance
this.
to get into the,
Okay, so
okay.
we'll hear the application, but I would want to have that information before making any final decision.
I understand.
Okay.
It may help you to say that we're not doing much to the existing house externally. So the first and the biggest part is this back wing, which is clearly an add-on, that is a garage with a living space on the second floor. We're taking that living space out and we're converting that garage into a great room. Second part would be this small addition here in green. It's a one-story addition to an existing one-story piece of the building, which we're really just bringing out 4 additional feet to the north. The third part of the...
And so that will show on the...
That will show, I will show you on the elevations in a second, so you can see that. I just want to run you through all the different pieces first. The third part is a second floor addition here in blue over existing, yes, off the back, over existing ground floor area. And this area here in green, which is a one-story porch, again, on the rear. The rest are internal
I think if you
renovations.
get to the elevations, it explains everything.
Okay.
Go to A3.
So I have it laid out so that you can see existing and proposed. So this is the street view. You can see the basic core of the building is not changing at all, other than my client would like to have a standing seam metal roof over the front porch.
They are allowed.
That addition that I was talking about on the side, here's existing, this is proposed. So it's being added on 4 feet on that 1 story. And then the other changes are way in the back on that funky wing that's there. We're making a smaller sort of garage utility door and then taking out this plate glass window and just putting a little awning window up in the gable. So that's really minimal change from the street view. This is the rear of the building. Again, the comparison, our addition that we're pulling out, we're keeping the exact same roof line that's there. We're adding this covered porch, again, that being a standing seam roof. And we're expanding this little shed area, making it double the size that it is now. And that will be for storage. And building a chimney. Thank you.
And you're taking the chimney down.
We are taking the chimney down
part of the
here.
house.
It's actually going to come down on its own, I think, if we...
Material of the chimney that you're proposing?
The rear chimney would be stucco.
Be stucco?
Standing seam also? How much standing seam, is that on that back portion too?
Yes, it is. So that's the front and the rear, and then I'll show you the sides.
It's really on the street, I don't know.
This is the south side. This is existing.
Oh, my.
I told you about that. I told you about that back part. And this is the proposed. So the basic core of the house is staying the same. That second floor is just expanding a little bit. And then this is the north side. Existing and proposed.
It's kind of a small point, but a chimney in a Victorian house,
Brick?
it's kind of a character-defining exterior element. It's like that's how they heated the place, kind of thing, you know. So I'm just saying it's kind of a modernization to understand it's no longer functional. You're venting your heat through a plastic pipe through the foundation, whatever. You're not venting the furnace. But as an architectural feature, as a visual feature, as you're looking at this Victorian house, it's going to be a little odd to no longer have a chimney. So is it necessary to actually physically remove it for structural safety reasons?
Well, it's in terrible shape.
Bad shape.
I don't think my client we would not be using it anymore.
Right.
I don't think my client would be opposed to keeping it as an architectural element. It would be rebuilt, though, because it's functionally, it's in such bad
that's a
shape.
condition issue. But I'm just saying, just visually, you think of at least one chimney associated with the house of that period.
Yep.
And once it's gone, it kind of loses.
So a faux chimney?
Well,
Yes, I've done it before.
Well, I'm just bringing up the observation.
Okay.
That something
I
will
think it's well
be
brought up.
missing if the chimney goes missing.
Okay.
Visually.
Okay. It's like wearing glasses with no lenses in it.
I guess.
Okay.
So, but on the whole, I think this is like it's appropriate. I mean, the additions are not overbearing, and a lot of it is out of sight. It's in and around behind the house. We're not even going to see it.
Really, the only thing
The
that's
house is so busy now, so long, and it's so much going on. I think you're tying in a lot of the elements. I don't know if that whole extension of metal roof, it's loud. I don't know if they know or realize that, but I've been in these homes, but it seems to be for purposes of sustainability. Obviously, more and more people are using them, and it's not going to be seen.
Would it be painted or
Or
would it
will
be
it be
left?
seen?
Some of it
It
will
will
be
be
seen.
seen.
That would be great.
It's on Elm
Think so?
Street.
On the
Yes.
front, they're
You
having
can
it over
see-
the front and the
Yes.
part that's on the south.
I'm talking about that long accordion
part of it.
portion from the road.
Yeah, you can see it from the side, I think.
But you know, you go upstate and all the barns are
Right,
roofed.
but if you drive down Elm Street,
This
they're
is
not.
Elm Street.
This is
There
Elm
is
Street.
no
I understand,
place
I'm just saying, 'cause
that
I
this
object to
roof can be seen from the street.
Yeah,
No,
no?
I'm more concerned about
Front part.
this part on the side and the front, over the front door, where it can be seen, because both of those can be seen from the street.
I agree that it's already so complicated, and I don't see a lot of metal roofs. Elm Street's a kind of fancy, place where people who...
They're usually overhangs, like a metal
But they're
roof,
not on
you
Elm
just-
Street. Elm Street's a lot of shingles, which I think should remain.
Like I say, it's a design that seems to be expanding lately, and Jeff, what are your concerns?
I agree with Rob and Susan. The design is generally okay, and I think actually more than okay. So, sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
No, it's more than okay, and you've done a lot with a complicated house. My request would be that the roofing material would be changed to something more traditional, whether that's wood shingle.
The rest of the houses will be wood shingles.
So then that's what I would request. And in as much as you're keeping the chimney as an architectural feature, I think keeping the material on the roofing would be a small compromise.
But we need...
Throughout the entire, or just
Yes.
front features?
Yep, throughout, because I think Elm Street has a character, and I think it deserves to be maintained.
Christina, comments?
I mean, I think the overall design of the house is great. I'm questioning a little bit the metal roof because I lived on Elm Street for 35 years. It's a street that's very close to my heart. And it is a very traditional street with a lot of different houses. So I'd be interested to hear Zachary's report.
Okay. Robbie, anything further?
The only other concern I have has to do with this 4-foot addition. I don't mind necessarily the addition, but when you look at it in elevation, you're taking what was a shed gable structure that faced away from the main structure and was a small appendage to that original sort of 4-square farmhouse.
Now you can see it.
And you're creating something that, in my opinion, changes the look and feel of that whole front form because you're extending the roof line down visually. I know elevations, it's setback and elevations are deceiving, but to me, that addition and the change of the roof line fairly seriously diminishes the appearance of the original house. So I don't think...
Let's first acknowledge whether it's a contributing structure within the historic district. Well, I think that needs to be addressed, in which case what you're saying is absolutely correct, that most of whatever design you want to propose should be more in keeping and definitely not take out of the overall look and scale of the original design.
I had a clarification question on that, if I could, because I'm just curious about, is the footprint for that addition changing front to back, east to west? Can you just go through the footprint of that addition that comes towards the driveway off the house?
Sure. Let's see. It might, I'm just thinking where it's easiest to show you. Actually, you know what, I have a big underneath here. Easier for everybody to see. Okay. First of all, the little addition on the north that you're talking about that I'm enlarging, it's not original to the house.
Right,
That was something that was added on. The existing footprint of that is from here and straight across.
So you're not changing really the depth of that from the street, I mean...
So I'm adding roughly 4 feet.
Yep. And changing the orientation of the roof?
Yes.
Okay.
There's not a lot of ways that I can roof that otherwise, to be honest with you, architecturally. Does it help if I were to say, I know you're not making a decision, but does it help that my client has given me the authorization to say that he will give up his metal roofs and do it in wood?
That would be.
That's a good first step.
That's what I would prefer.
The neighbors are going to complain, I'm going to tell you. So we're empowering our historic consultant to do a report on the history of the building. I want to know just what portions are genuine or original, if it's still in keeping with it, if it still has its historical intent, or has it changed so much that it's no longer a contributing structure?
Well, this would be with your permission, of course. And may I ask a procedural question?
Okay.
Apropos of an earlier item on our agenda, there are moments when visiting a house is appropriate, of course with the permission of the owner or the representative. Does that constitute an improper procedure?
What are you proposing?
Going to visit the house.
Going to visit the house.
Fine.
Facilitated by the owner, perhaps with the owner present.
Right.
What, he can't visit a house?
No, there's no question to that.
Well, really? I'm just saying, I want to be clear that that's appropriate.
This board is asking and requesting that you do an evaluation. It is, you're putting on record that you're going to do a site visit, I'm assuming, which, and upon that site visit.
But the point that I'm putting on it is that I will very likely be meeting with the architect, who is the applicant, representing the applicant, and that's okay.
Yeah, we've done it in the past.
Zach, you just
Give you
need
a
to be
call.
outside or?
Outside?
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is, we don't need, absolutely.
I don't care about
Fine.
Well, if it's outside, you don't need to have anyone meet you on the property. You're not looking at getting interior access, correct?
Well,
I'm
wants
not going
permission.
to, I'm not going to walk on the property without.
Okay, then.
Permission.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happy to do it. I'll give you.
Any public comment on the application? Anything further from the board?
Nope. All right. Can I just state for the record, because I was a little negative on something, but I'm very glad this house is getting some attention. And I think other members of the board seem to agree. Right?
But just going in the right direction. Yeah. You need some work, and we need to do some additional review. So would you like to request an adjournment of this board so you can prepare yourself, we can prepare ourselves, and certainly if you're going to come back with an alternative plan to the metal roof, we'd like to see that as well.
Yes.
Is there a landscape plan?
Yes, there is. It should be in your packet.
It is. So we'll address that at the next meeting too, and then after Zach's report, we'll be able to review that.
And will that be date-wise, please?
Our next meeting?
23rd.
The 23rd.
April 23rd?
Enough time?
Yeah, I just was doing a mental check.
Just so we know the exchange, the report will be in file what date?
Oh, I guess early next week, Monday, Tuesday.
So it'll be submitted in the file. You can go to the building department to get a copy.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until our next meeting.
You got my number.
Motion that we approve the applicant's request, Elm Street Holdings LLC, to adjourn to our next meeting on the 23rd of April.
Motion by Christina, is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Susan, all in favor. Rob? Aye. Christina? Aye. Susan? Aye. Jeff? Aye. And I'm an aye as well. And
Thank you very
motion
much.
to close.
I make a motion to close this meeting of the Board of Historic Preservation and Architectural Review.
Motion by Rob, is there a second?
I second the
Second
motion.
by Susan, all in favor. Rob?
Aye.
Christina, Sue?
Aye.
All right, 9-9 too. Good night.